Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to be diving into a jungle build guide for Crunch. Now, I'm starting off on the crest selection because we actually have a couple of options. These are the two crests that I like to run, and I think it's very just matchup dependent. So I think you kind of look at the team comps and you kind of decide. So if you don't feel like you need a cleanse, well, no, sorry, if you do feel like you need a cleanse, you're going to look at Witch Stalker. The reason why you like Witch Stalker is that it gives you physical power, physical pen, Omnivamp. Omnivamp is very, very good for Crunch. We're going to talk a little bit about Omnivamp. This plays into his healing, plays into just keeping him sustained up. But then other than that, it's just got a little heal built into it, and it's a cleanse, right? It keeps him from getting locked down to CC, which is a huge thing that Crunch does not want to do. So very CC heavy team, consider Witch Stalker. If it's not super CC heavy, you know, if you feel like you don't need it, cool. I personally prefer Icecorn Talons. I like Icecorn Talons because it has the ability haste, which is like another stat that Crunch absolutely loves. Also, this comes with physical power as well and a little bit of health. And then you increase, you get the dueling zone, right? The Glacial Colosseum grant an ice sheet around you for 15 seconds. Allies in the sheet deal 15% more damage for 3 seconds. They also gain 50% move speed, and then you slow enemies for 15%. So this is a really, really nice item for Crunch. So that's my thoughts on crest selection. Now let's talk a little bit about Crunch. Now the thing about Crunch is that he is one of the bruisers in this game that has a lot of options. One of the best things that Crunch needs, that actually it's probably his number one stat line, is ability haste. So I'm just going to quickly show you some of the ability haste items that I think are super phenomenal for him. I'm going to give you a build, but again, you got to keep in mind that there's so many moving parts to these games. You have to be someone that can look at a build guide like this and say, okay, cool, I'll build that to start, and then eventually become adaptable. So I'm going to give you some of the 3 best items that I think that Crunch can absolutely start with, actually start with. You have Berserker's Axe, you have Augmentation, and you have Mutilator. Let's take a look at the first one. Berserker's Axe is a 30-50 gold item. This has 40 physical power, 15 ability haste, 300 health, 3% move speed. So 15 ability haste, keep that in mind. Blitz passive, 12-second cooldown on dashing or leaping, which you're doing with Crunch. You're going to be dashing around. Empower your next basic attack within 12 seconds. It deals 40 plus 3% of your max health damage, slows by 50% for 0.75 seconds. Basic attacks reduce blitz cooldown by 0.5 seconds. And then you gain 20% movement speed for crossing frog walls. This is a really good ganking item. I actually think this is kind of an underutilized item. It's solid, right? And Crunch is very, very good in the early game as a pressure on the early to mid game field, jumping out and ganking and things like that. So 15 ability haste, it gives him a nice little slow. It empowers his auto, gives him base movement speed, which is nice. Solid item. All right, Augmentation, another one of Crunch's pretty core items that you see built on Crunch quite a bit. 40 physical power, 300 health, 20 ability haste. You have True Strike on a 2-second cooldown. Empower your next basic attack within 4 seconds. Deal 40% of your physical power stat as true damage on hit, and then overclocked 20-second cooldown on casting your ultimate. You gain a 15% in movement speed. This is a little bit more burst. So if you compare Berserker's Axe, this is going to more move speed, more literally moving around and slowing them. So this is more about the movement. This item is more about the burst, right? It also has a little bit more haste. Again, phenomenal stat for Crunch. So really, really good item to build on Crunch. And last but not least is Mutilator. Mutilator, a little bit more expensive than the other two at 3,300. This has 40 physical power, 15 ability haste, 8 Omnivamp, which is really, really good for Crunch. Again, we're going to talk about that in just a second. It deals 1% of their maximum health as damage on basic attacks. So as you're hitting, say, tanks, this is a tank shredder item, so to speak. You're going to be able to actually rip through them. And then you have Devour passive, which ability hits on heroes, apply Mutilate 3 times, steal 5% of their maximum health for 20 seconds, occurs once per target. So you're actually going to be, if you jump into a fight and you use your Q or you use your sweeping, whatever the heck move it's called, we'll talk about that in a second, you're going to hit say 3-4 people, you're going to steal a bunch of health and wear that for yourself. So why is Omnivamp so good with Crunch? Well, if we take a look at his ultimate, the Recrunch, it's repeat the last ability used. Passive, every third basic attack or ability hit restores 29 health. That's what it's at right now. So restores health, and then on every third ability used within 10 seconds, activate Turbo Crunch. So that's going to be the other part of it. So he's got health and healing built in. This is why it's important. So Omnivamp is solid because Omnivamp is every time you do an ability, you're going to heal, whereas Lifesteal is on auto attack. So Omnivamp on Crunch, really, really solid. Definitely something to consider. So those are the 3 start items. I think that there's absolutely a case to be made about just starting with any of those three. I think that if you need to go in a bit more of a tanky direction, you need to start with Mutilator. Like if you're going to be like the core frontliner for the team, you probably need to do a Mutilator start. If you feel like maybe you have a tank on the team as well, I think you could do one of these other starts. Now, again, this is where it's going to get hard because I just have to make up a build, right? I have to make up a build, give it to you, present it to you, and say, all right, cool, that's a good build. I think a really solid build is doing something like Muti augmentation or augmentation into Mutilator and then going into tank items. Now, there are some tank items that are particularly good for Crunch when it comes to like what does he want to actually use that I would say are maybe worth your pickup. I think Elefrost it's another one of those, like the spell slasher items is really good for Crunch. Tainted Guard, you can never go wrong with Tainted Guard if you need it, right? If you absolutely need this item. I think Draconum is good on him. This item is so close to being good. The reason why this item in particular is good is because it does increase your healing. So not only is it giving him haste, power, armor, it gives him everything he needs except for health, but it does increase his armor, so you're actually going to get some like stacking armor, and then it increases your healing stacking as well. If you do get a takedown, you're going to heal yourself for a pretty good amount. So I don't know. I'm always on the fence about this item, as well as Giant's Ring. Like I think this is an item that you can slot a little bit later in the build, because this is health, haste, armor, and then when hit by basic attacks, you reduce your non-ultimate cooldowns by 0.25 seconds, and then when you are casting your ultimate, you gain 15% size and you are mitigating damage taken. So this is a really, really nice tank item for Crunch. Now, on the magic armor item side, Void Helm. Void Helm is definitely the way you want to go on Crunch. It's the same thing. Heal 10% from all sources. You're increasing your own healing. On top of immobilizing, you're going to get 3% of your max health healing, which is like your knock-up when you use your ultimate, your knock-up combo. And then this is going to be your health, haste, and magic armor. So something like this, very, very fine start. I think you could absolutely do a build that looks just like this, for example. This is increased healing. This is Omnivamp. This is like your damage. Absolutely something that you could do. Truly, if you want to build this, go for it. I don't really actually have a build that I'm just sending y'all with Crunch, and that's the thing with Crunch. I myself have a hard time constantly building the same thing. I just heard my video stop rendering in the background. Another start that you could do, and I think that it's absolutely a viable start, is Berserker Axe into say one of these physical power or physical armor items that we're looking at, like Elefrost, so you can have that spell slasher passive, or into a Tainted Guard if you need to get that online. Again, still on the fence about Draconum. I do think that Giant's Ring, if you're going to slot it, tends to come in a little bit later, 4th, 5th slot. So you could throw something like this in, and then again, as far as magic armor goes, you're gonna want the Void Helm. This is pretty much the item that Crunch wants for sure, is the Void Helm for magic armor. The rest of the items in here, not super great. Crystalline Cuirass is okay for him, I suppose, if you really want to go tankier. But I think Void Helm is really the way to go. This build looks a little wonky, still solid. You could even throw the Mutilator in as the second item if you want to. You could throw it in as the 4th item. I just want to give you guys the items that are good on him. So try some of these variations out. Again, Witch Stalker, non-Witch Stalker. You can go Tank Crest on him if you want. Crunch is very versatile. Very, very versatile. I think that he has a crazy amount of potential. And if you want to start experimenting just for yourself, look at the ability haste. Just look at the ability haste section and take your chances on some things in here. I will say, I don't think items like Basilisk are very great on him. I just don't think he utilizes this super well. Now, it is like Corrode is on damaging a hero, so it's like, yeah, you could lower their armor a little bit, but there's better haste items for him out there. I also don't necessarily recommend items like Infernum, like Assassin items. You don't want to go that squishy. I do think Tainted Blade, very, very solid item. If you want to get Tainted online, but you want to stay more in the damage side of things, you could avoid the Tainted Guard. You can go to Tainted Blade. This is a super phenomenal item for Crunch. Keep something like that in mind. I stay personally away from magic damage on him, so you're not going to see me build any kind of magic damage on him at all. And even like Bone Seeker, this item, he doesn't really need attack speed. If you're going to build any attack speed, I will throw this in there, because I do think that this is important as well to know. The only attack speed item that Crunch can build is Absolution. This is a an inherently kind of like bruisery item, even though it's listed as a ranger item, because it has 20 magic armor, so that's technically some mitigation there. But then when you become immobilized, you actually gain 20% damage mitigation as well. And the reason why attack speed is kind of good on Crunch is because it actually makes his moves come out a little bit faster. So like when you're actually spamming your abilities, they actually come out a little bit faster with attack speed. So this is an item that I think you can slot in there, 4th slot maybe, if you really want to, you know, mess around with a more aggressive build. Goes well with Mutilator because obviously you can auto attack a little bit more, so keep something like that in mind. I think for me, a pretty standard build, if I'm really trying to niche all down some, is to go much more frontline heavy, where I do something like this and go into this. So it's like I'm really playing on that, like, okay, let's get Mutilator online. I'm the front line in this game. I'm basically playing tank, but I'm still kind of bruiser because I'm not building a ton of health and armors. If I'm not doing something like that, what I'm probably going to do is try to lean into Berserker Axe a little bit more for myself, maybe even Augmentation into Mutilator, Berserker Axe into Mutilator, and then go into some of those other options. So friends, I hope that this was helpful. I know that I didn't just give you a build and cut you loose to the world, but hey, there's a few in there, so play around with him. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Drop a like on the video and subscribe for future Predecessor content and guides. Yeah, Omnivamp, very, very important on this hero. That's why items like Mutilator are so incredible on him. Pick the crest that correlates with what you want to do. If you want to be tank Crunch, you can build Saphir's Mantle on him, sure. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so do what you need with the versatile hero like Crunch. He's a pretty solid frontliner, pretty solid bruiser, and can, you know, have a pretty solid damage output as well. As always, be sure to counter tell someone you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.